Hey, what's up guys? I'm Steve Wells, and today we are going to be talking about barefoot running. So is barefoot running a great idea and everyone should be doing all of their runs barefoot? Or is it a horrible idea and you should only wear the Hoka Bondi for the rest of your running career? I think that the issue is just not black and white like people see it as. And there are a million different gray areas that you can fall into in between the two extremes. You don't have to go out and run a road marathon barefoot this week, but you also probably don't need all of the cushion and support that you think that you do if you kind of gradually get into something a little bit more minimal. The minimalist running shoe craze started around 2009-ish when Born to Run came out. So Born to Run is about the Tarahumara tribe that runs hundreds and hundreds of miles, mostly barefoot or wearing very minimal sandals made out of like car tires and twine. And the question was, why are they such good runners and why do they rarely get injuries? And there are many different things that kind of go into that, but a lot of people looked at this book and said, well, I'll just start running barefoot and I'll never get an injury again. And that is not really how it worked out for a lot of them. So if for your entire life you've worn cushioned supportive shoes and you go out with poor form, weak muscles, try to do the same amount of mileage on asphalt, you're going to run into issues. And that's what a lot of people experienced around like 2010-ish when this started happening. People would go out, run 5 miles barefoot and get plantar fasciitis, hurt their calves, something like that because of those tight, non-mobile muscles from being in a stiff shoe and because they're used to that cushion, so striking on their heel and that kind of thing, and kind of wrote off minimalist running as a whole, went back to their kind of traditional running shoes. So we're here in 2021 now, and there is still a following of kind of minimalist running shoes, and I feel like it is kind of resurging a little bit, but in kind of a different way than it was initially. Now obviously there are running shoes that are 7 inches thick now. I mean, right now I'm wearing the Hoka Arahi that I just ran in, which is very, very far from a minimalist shoe. So why are the Tarahumara able to run so far in minimalist sandals and I can't do the same? Because of a few different reasons. They grew up not wearing shoes nearly as much as I did probably, or wearing more minimalist sandals like they run in, and so didn't have the support and cushion and therefore develop more mobile, more strong feet and ankles and everything like that. Also, they tend to be running on softer surfaces, not be running on concrete and asphalt and that kind of thing. Having started running wearing more minimalist shoes, they likely also have very different form than people that grew up wearing shoes and started running in higher cushioned, stable shoes. So are there benefits to running in barefoot or more minimalist shoes? And it really depends on who you ask. But according to a lot of the research that I have done, if you do it gradually and you listen to your body and you do it correctly, you can help prevent a lot of problems that you can run into later down the road. Stuff like plantar fasciitis, Morton's neuroma, even arthritis because of the increased strength and mobility in your joints, and things like bunions because tight-fitting running shoes can contribute to a lot of those different problems. But I will qualify some of these statements in a little bit. So if you're going down to the comments right now to type something mean to me about how stupid my beard is or how I'm not a doctor, just wait a second and I'll explain. So let's talk about some of the differences between a more traditional running shoe and a more minimal running shoe. To be clear, there are many shoes within the kind of spectrum of these things. So you have something like the Asics Nimbus, which is going to be one of their highest cushion shoes, very stiff, high heel drop. So the heel in this shoe, can't remember the exact number, but probably around 11 or 12 millimeters above the ball of your foot. Going to have wide-ish but tapered toe box that comes to a point at the end. And if you compare this to something like the Zero Z Trail, very different shoes. So obviously much stiffer in the Asics than the sandals. Your foot's going to kind of just flex around with whatever surface you're on. Has a zero drop front to back, obviously is a sandal, but you don't have to go out and buy a pair of minimal sandals to kind of get into the same type of benefits that a more minimalist shoe can give you. So I've made videos about these shoes before. This is the Ultra Escalante. This is what I wear to work every day. So has a wider toe box, is still going to be much more flexible than the Asics, is still going to have that zero drop heel to toe, and is going to give you more cushion than something like these would. And even something like the Ultra Paradigm, you're probably going to get some more of the benefits of a more minimal shoe than something like the Nimbus. So it's still going to be zero drop heel to toe, still have that same type of wider toe box that's going to allow your toes to splay in the end, but it's going to be a little bit more towards what the Asics offers, if that's more what you're used to. This shoe even has guide rails that run along the edge, give you a little bit more stability, ton of cushion. I have a video on it if you want to go check it out up in the corner there. So do I think that you should go out and buy a pair of Escalantes or a pair of Zero sandals immediately and start doing your daily mileage in them? No, probably not. Unless you are already running in something like this, you probably want to get into it a little bit more gradually. What I would probably recommend is doing your normal runs in your normal running shoes for a little bit longer. And at the end of your run, go to an area that has nice soft ground that doesn't have, broken glass and thorns and that kind of thing. Get barefoot and just run for like 30 seconds and see how it feels. And on another run, maybe go up to a minute or something like that, and just kind of increase and just see what your body does when you start running barefoot. And this is a time that you can also start thinking about adjusting your form as well. If you have a running shoe with a higher drop to it, kind of traditional wisdom has been land on your heel and go off of the ball of your foot. But in looking at it a little bit more, that shock that is going up through your heel and up through your locked knee is going to do more damage because you're counting on just the little bit of cushioning in the shoe to absorb that shock instead of using your entire body to help absorb that shock and keep it out of your joints and from causing problems. So if you are running barefoot even in grass, this will probably just start to happen naturally, because if you land on your heel, it hurts. And so you will start kind of moving towards that more mid-foot to forefoot strike, and this will probably also transition over onto the road as well, even in your more traditional running shoes like this. And as you're doing this, you can also start working on strength and mobility in your feet, in your ankles, in your knees, and in your hips. Even if you never go to anything more minimal than what you're running in, all of that stuff will still help you in your running and help reduce the risk of injury down the road. So my recommendation would be, based on those short barefoot running sessions that you're doing on the grass or on soft dirt or something like that, see how you feel during them. If you feel 100%, feel like you could run like that all day, go ahead and get something a little bit more minimal. So minimalist shoes don't have to be your Vibram 5 fingers toe shoes. There are definitely some out there that are way less ugly. So if I was looking to get a super minimalist running shoe that is something a little bit closer to this, but not necessarily a sandal, I would look at Xero shoes, Xero, Vivo Barefoot, or something like the New Balance Minimus, the Merrell Vapor Glove, the Merrell Trail Glove, something like that, that is still going to give your feet some protection that you're used to, but is going to allow your foot to move more naturally like you're looking for. If you were doing those runs and you're not 100% sure, but you were feeling pretty good, maybe a little bit of calf soreness, maybe wishing that you had a little bit more cushion or something like that, you can always start in something like the Escalante, or like the Topo ST3, or the Ultra Superior on the trail, or something like that, that is going to still give you steps in the right direction that you're looking to go, but is still going to be similar enough to your running shoes that you're in now that you're not going to immediately hurt yourself. And if those short barefoot runs just really weren't going that well, and you're really not sure if this is the thing for you, you can always try a shoe like the Paradigm, or the Torin, or the Topo Cyclone, or even something like the Saucony Kinvara is going to be more flexible, lower drop, but not zero drop, and kind of give you a little bit more of a feel of what a more minimal shoe is like, but not going to something like this. And also keep in mind that you don't have to just have those shoes. You can have a pair of Escalantes and a pair of super minimal sandals or shoes that you do shorter runs in the more minimal ones, longer runs in the more cushioned ones. You can even keep your Asics Nimbus, just work into gradually switching back and forth, maybe doing 3 days a week in your Escalantes, 2 days a week in your Nimbus on your longer days, and just work into it gradually, and not just go all out and start running barefoot all the time. Something else that is going to help you if you decide that you want to go into a more minimal shoe is wearing a more minimal shoe during the day as well. If you're wearing 8-inch heels during your workday, or even if you're wearing men's dress shoes that are going to have an elevated heel as well and a narrower toe box, that is going to cause problems whenever you switch into a more minimal lower drop shoe. A lot of people think about wearing a minimal shoe to work and think about how ugly some of them have been traditionally, and don't want to do that. But there are a few out there that aren't too bad, and might be worth taking a look at. If you look at, again, Zero or Vivo Barefoot, or one that has a lot of shoes that look really nice that I've never actually worn myself, but Lems makes a lot of more casual kind of minimalist wide toe box, zero drop, more flexible shoes that would be a little bit more work appropriate than something like your minimalist sandals. So if you do end up deciding that trying a more minimalist shoe is something that you want to attempt, keep in mind that there are a ton of different shoes in between your Asics Nimbus and your Vibram Five Fingers. You can try something that is a little bit more on the minimal side. You don't have to go all the way to your sandals from your higher drop, more cushioned shoes. And just keep in mind that you should be doing it the same way that you should be doing pretty much everything in your life, and that is in moderation and taking it slowly and listening to your body. If you feel like you're doing too much too soon, it's probably because you're doing too much too soon. You can always go with something just slightly more minimal than what you're in, and when they start to get a little bit worn out, start mixing in another shoe that's a little more minimal, or even get two pairs of shoes that you can kind of rotate back and forth, a pair of Escalantes, a pair of something even more minimal, and just switch it up and see what works for you. Take it slowly and listen to your body. So to be clear, while I'm talking about this, I'm not always running in minimalist shoes myself. These sandals are not my only pair of running shoes. In fact, I rarely run in these. I will not do more than around a mile in these because I don't want to do what people did in 2009 and hurt myself. I do wear Escalantes to work pretty much every day, sometimes with something like correct toes, which is a different topic entirely that we can talk about in another video. But I have to try out all of these different shoes so that I can talk about them with you guys. So I can't necessarily always just run in something more minimal. So I hope this video has been helpful. If it was, be sure to like and subscribe down below. Check out the link to my Patreon that will be in the description. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments, and I will talk to you guys next week.